Now, right, something happened to the Democratic Party.
Yes, it was hijacked about 30 years ago systematically by the progressives. Progressives are socialists over a long period of time. Socialists are Marxists under another name. You have people in power in the federal government, in the White House and Congress now, who say they are Marxists. They don't hide it. They say, and they used to be members of the Marxist Party or of the Communist Party in the United States. This is not a secret. They're proud of it. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means that they are fundamentally against individual rights, and they are fundamentally against power from the top. They know better. They'll form their dictatorship. All socialist systems move naturally toward that end, unless you have checks and balances to pull them back. So what can you do, for example, to try to affect the political discourse in the United States without just voting for particular candidates?
Right. It's some patriot activism.
Right. So one thing you can do is you can be involved with other local people, and there are thousands of local active groups that meet every week or 2 weeks in the United States. You can go to sites that are listed in the back of our book, of which there are dozens. We've vetted them all. We talk about them. You can go to the website, and there are hyperlinks with local resources and meetings and groups. You can team up with other local organizations that have been around, some for hundreds of years, that share the same value system. We tell people how to do that. But I'll give you one simple thing you could do right now in your home. Instantly, somebody watching this video, you could sign up with 5 different blog names on 5 different progressive websites, starting with the Huffington Post and working downward. And you could then reply. Every time you read the Huffington Post and you see some outrageous article which says up is down, the moon is made of green cheese, and left is right, right is left, and truth is lies, you know, all of that nonsense that you read is just crazy when you read it. You could respond. You could say, no, listen, this doesn't make sense. Let me tell you why. You could respond back as a reply to the editor, as it were. Imagine 100,000 people who bought this book, and they did that 5 times a day, very short. 500,000 suddenly new people throughout the country, responding back on these blogs. Who reads the replies to the editors of progressive blogs? Why are they progressives? And who are they? The mainstream media. They don't read the conservative, the libertarian, the classical liberal sites. They read their own sites.
That's right.
You have a dialogue suddenly where enormous numbers, the majority of people replying, say, wait a minute, I don't agree with this. What's happened to our readership? What's happened to the people? This would affect some conversation, some change, and we could perhaps pull ourselves back from the brink.
Right. And it's concrete examples like that this book is full of, right?
Yes,
it's very action-oriented. I mean, you have the philosophical part in the beginning, very good, and then you have the action part.
And there's some fun things to do.
Indeed.
You know, progressives can't be laughed at. They have very thin skins. And they're pretty silly people when you think about it, because they don't live their lives like that. They're completely hypocritical. And they say, do what I tell you to do. By the way, I don't do it myself. Congress exempts itself from most of the laws that it seems to apply to us. I'll start with the first one. It's most obvious. You pay Social Security, I pay Social Security. Congress doesn't have to pay Social Security. They have a gold-plated Cadillac plan, which is 4 or 5 times better than Social Security. Your company has to hire, or your business, people regardless of race, creed, political faith, blah, 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 which is, of course, makes sense. In Congress, you can discriminate on who you hire. I have to abide by the Environmental Protection Act and all the laws which restrict me from doing certain things. Congress, it doesn't apply. You want to smoke in Congress? The law doesn't cover Congress. It's a rule. If they say you can smoke, you can smoke. If they say you can't, you can't. Everywhere else, sorry, it applies to their... So there are lots of examples of laws where Congress exempts himself. Now, how can they do that? Are they better than us? Who are these people before they became congressmen? Were they successful businessmen? No. Were they leaders of their community? No, in most cases. They're politicians who created jobs to get rehired. That can be fixed, and it will be fixed. It will be fixed because if it isn't fixed, our society will collapse. We are bankrupt. We are in debt. We are in a recession, going to a depression. We never came out of the recession. The National Bureau of the NBEA, the organization which determines officially when recessions started and when they end, has said, hey, we know when it started a couple years ago. It hasn't ended yet. This is already, I think, the longest recession since World War II. It's the longest one since the 50s. And this double dip concept is just mad. There's no double dip. It's just dip. We're going to see in February, after the new Congress is sworn in, a mess in this country in terms of the economic system. The Federal Reserve Board keeps printing up money. We have $1 trillion deficit. What does that mean? It means the federal government took in $1 trillion less in income than it spent. If you or I did that, they would put us in prison. You can't spend more than you have. You go bankrupt.
I mean, the problems in America now seems obvious, but still I sense that you have a positive sort of underlying here. You still believe in America. You still believe in the people of America, and this can be changed, right? Because there are some people in the libertarian movement that sort of given this up and say that it's going to, you know, and
all will end badly.
Right, but you believe that change, to use that word, good change is still possible.
We can move back to a position of recognizing the freedoms and the liberties of the individual, and we can claw back this massive cancer, which is literally the federal government, and the state governments have the same problem, growing bigger and bigger and bigger, and passing more and more legislation, making everything criminal, making everything illegal, restricting everybody's personal freedoms, and for all kinds of excuses, but again, things which have just happened one after another over a long period of time, and we can bring that back. I'm basically an optimist, of course. I write for Human Events, and I cover global economics, humanevents.com, the newspaper, and we talk about these things all the time in our columns. The comment I make over and over is I'm an optimist. Americans fundamentally are optimistic people. We're can-do people. We think we can fix problems. We're creative at fixing problems. It's only when we start getting confused about the individual versus the collective. The collectives cannot be coercive. Collectives must be voluntary. You and I can get together and have a voluntary organization. And if we are two wolves and there's a sheep, we cannot vote ourselves the sheep to eat, even though it might be a majority. We must recognize always that my right to eat the sheep stops at the sheep.
Right.